Welcome back, everybody, to another exciting episode of Aaron's Opinion, the podcast for blind people where we speak about critical issues in the blindness community. By the way, this episode is, of course, brought to you by Riverside FM. I'll tell you more about that later in the description of the video or in the comments. Today's guest is, of course, Penny Lawler. You join us, as I understand it, from Australia. And Penny, as I like to say, I like to start every episode of Aaron's Opinion the very same by saying, "Who is Penny Lawler?" Go right ahead.
Okay, I'm a 51-year-old female, recently divorced. I have two adult daughters. I'm legally blind. I have a condition called retinitis pigmentosa, so I've slowly over time lost my peripheral vision. Currently, I've got very little to speak of. I just get on with life. You know, I was deemed legally blind the year that I turned 30, but I've never been able to see in the dark. I wasn't diagnosed with RP till I was close to 18 years old. And my father, who I inherited it through, my mum carried it without knowing, didn't get diagnosed till he was in his 40s, because that was when I got diagnosed. So he went to see someone. It's been a challenge throughout my life, but it's never really stopped me doing anything because I'm very stubborn and persistent and fiercely independent, to a fault at times, unfortunately. But few things that have happened in my life over the past few years have made me face my condition and accept help where I need it. With my 30-year relationship, 25-year marriage ending, I no longer had a husband, but I also lost my two adult daughters, one of them for 2 years. I've had her back in for close to a year now. Unfortunately, my 23, nearly 24-year-old still won't speak to me because their father filled their heads with lies and untruths. She has Asperger's, my youngest, so she obviously doesn't process things the same, especially when it comes to emotions and feelings. My ex-husband also has Asperger's, as well as being a narcissistic sociopath. So he has brainwashed her like he did me, and she won't speak to me. That's been harder than losing my sight, because my children are my world, always will be, especially as I was told at 18 years old that I'd never have children. I wouldn't be able to fall pregnant, but they were my little miracles. So, yeah, they're very, very important to me. I don't want to keep just talking, Aaron. You talk too. I'm feeling, I was born in Cambridge, England. My family emigrated as permanent residents to Sydney in 1972. So I wasn't even 2 years old. So I have very few clear memories of the UK. We lived there, or I should step back. We left England because of my ill health. I was born as a chronic asthmatic, and if I cried, I had an asthma attack and would stop breathing. Also had a lot of allergies and so forth as relates to being an asthmatic. Doctors suggested that my family move to a warmer climate. Dad had always been wanting to move to Australia because it just seemed like a great place to go. We're living in cold England. My parents married at 18 years old, so they were young and in love, and had 3 children by this stage. I'm the youngest. I have a sister nearly 6 years older and a brother nearly 5 years older than myself. They have not inherited RP, which is wonderful. I'm very pleased to hear that. We're part of a genetic research team, and because my dad was the person who had the disease and my mum carried it, they're very lucky that I was the only one that got it, because every child they had without them realising had a 50-50 chance. I think we have thrown at us in life what we can deal with, and I'm quite proud of the fact that I know I'm the strongest one out of all of us. So that's why I've coped. I don't think either of my sister or my brother would have. I'm a Scorpio, so I'm a little bit, put on this hard shell on the outside, but my feelings run very deep. And I've just got on with life. I only stopped working just over 6 years ago. I've had 3 careers really throughout my life. I was a veterinary nurse. From the age of 14, I worked after school, and I worked there till I finished high school. Went to work at another veterinary clinic. After that, I came down with arthritis in my legs. At the time, they didn't have a name for it. It was unable to be detected through blood tests. They now call it inflammatory juvenile arthritis. 9 months I was in a wheelchair because I could not walk. My knees would collapse if I stood up. And I went from being a very thin, 45-kilo sporty woman or young girl who couldn't walk for 9 months. So that was a challenging and quite emotional experience. I kept persevering and pushing and going to different doctors and searching for answers. I also suffered from a lot of allergies, and all the medications they were giving me that were anti-inflammatories, I was allergic to. So I got very bad stomach pains from it all. Eventually, they actually put me on prednisolone, a steroid, and I was one of the first people to ever go on it for arthritis, anywhere in the world. And it worked. It got it under control. As soon as I could get up and walk again, I went out and got myself another job. I had a short stint in a retirement village in reception, and then this was obviously pre-children, I was approached from someone else I knew about getting involved in workers' compensation for the workers, not for an insurance company, but helping workers who were having trouble having their claims accepted. I've always been passionate for the underdog. Insurers get paid a lot of damn money and don't like paying it back out, so the idea excited me. Knew nothing about it, but was willing to learn, and a quick learner, good typer. Still drove then because I had very good day vision still. I ran that until I fell pregnant with my daughter, my eldest daughter. The unit actually closed because they lost funding. And then just over 2 years later, I fell pregnant with my second child. Miracle of all miracles. So I'd had one. They said I'd never have any. And then I had another one, which was just such a blessing. Very different mothering experience, though, when you have a child such as my firstborn, Danielle, stunning child, beautiful inside and out, her soul, giving, caring, works easily in groups and as parts of teams and just blends in. Was a very happy child. I thought, oh, great, motherhood's great. But I didn't feel very good about myself at that time. I didn't know I was suffering from postnatal depression. Quite severe. I was diagnosed when she was 18 months old. So I was actually pregnant with my second child, and I was still on antidepressants, and they dared take me off them because it was so bad. I really thought the world would be better off without me. That's how bad I felt. Had Emily, my second child, beautiful, beautiful soul. But I knew from the day she was born that she was different. There was a flatness in her expression. She wasn't able to, like, you knew when she was happy because her eyes would light up. But when I look at photos of her, then and now even, there's a flatness there, unless she's with someone that accepts her and she connects with. Otherwise, she's just standing there. She doesn't interact very easily. My mum, I was very thankful, was able to look after my kids when I went back to part-time work. I didn't want to put them in daycare, and she didn't want them to go. So she came to our home and cared for them. So there was no change in their routine. I realised that I needed to learn how to be the best mum for my daughter who was going to have challenges. So I went back to school and I became a mainstream special education assistant. And then I did my Cert 4 after that in special needs alone, because I just wanted to be the best mum I could be for her. I had to threaten the education department with discrimination because they weren't going to let me do the course because of my visual impairment. And when you become a Cert 4 special needs EA, you have to legally take on duty of care of your students. So their best interests have got to come first. And I said, do you really think I would put a child at risk, knowing my background? Because I was a scout leader for many years with our local scout group, which I loved as well. They got a person to call me in to the enrolment office who I'd known from the year before when I did my Cert 3, who's actually deaf. So she has her own challenges in life, to question me. Now, I was so angry because I'd excelled at my Cert 3. I was nominated for Student of the Year by this person who I was now speaking to. And I was very, very angry and hurt. And I don't know. She said, Penny, can you tell me what colour my eyes are? She said, I'm so sorry I've got to ask you these questions, but concerns have been voiced among the lecturers. And I went, yeah, Jane, your eyes are effing black, because I was mad. I said, what other stupid questions have you been put in the position of asking me? I said, because this is ridiculous. I said, I've worked for law firms for 10 years. Where should I send the discrimination suit to? I said, I would never put a child at risk. And the day that I feel I cannot take on duty of care with a child, either as an EA, or special needs is generally a teacher because you work one-on-one, and as a scout leader for children from the age of 5 through to 26. I said I would never put anybody at risk because of my disability. And the day I felt that I couldn't look after this particular child, who was year 6, but 6 foot tall, and I'm only 5'1", no verbal skills, no. This was this child who, Tom, his name was, which I don't mind saying because he has passed away from the illness that he suffered from. But he had no speech skills, no social skills, lived in his own world. I felt that I couldn't catch him if he took off from me because he was damn fast. And we had to go into the disabled toilet with him. He pinned me up against the wall one day, and it terrified me because I thought, this young child is stronger than me, he's bigger than me, he could hurt me without even realising it. And he started to mature and everything, and I just didn't feel that I could safely do that anymore, so I resigned. And I've only done relief work for the last 5 years in the union office that I used to help out in, that was in the same building. And now I am adjusting to being single after being with a very controlling 10-year-old man from the age of 20 who wasn't very nice as we had our children because he no longer had me to himself. That's when I realised how severe his problems were. But I'm not one to hold grudges. I'm not one to judge. And I'm not a negative person. I've had to stay positive to keep my perseverance and ability to fight everything that's been thrown at me. Because altogether I have 8 autoimmune diseases. So the lovely COVID injection that we've all been having has brought them all to life at the same time, which has not been very pleasant, but again, I'll get through it. I'll get through it because you have to, you know. I'm rambling, Aaron. I can't just keep talking.
Good.
Yeah, I've got so
Good.
much.
Good.
My life is It's been
Here,
very,
here.
very challenging,
So
you know.
I know I've been podcasting for a couple of years.
Mm,
I can tell you how here. Let me show you how this thing works. Okay. Hi everybody. Hi Penny. My name again is Aaron Richmond.
just drinking my coffee.
I was drawn to you, and I just kind of had a feeling that this was the type of conversation that we needed to sit down and have today. And I am so right.
Oh, thank you.
Everything you've said has just spoken to me so clearly in
Mm,
many different reasons. This particular episode will air out in a few months' time, but at this
hmm
moment when we're sitting here, I'm going through I'm also overcoming some small challenges during my life
mm.
at this moment, and I just cannot thank you enough for reminding me to persevere. That's a very
It's
very
very.
good reminder
We don't
that
have
so
any
many
other
people
choice.
in the community
Yeah,
need to
they
hear.
do.
So
There's always
yeah,
someone worse off than us. It's the way I've looked at life. No
right.
matter how sick
Hmm.
I've been or, depressed, because depression, I've been diagnosed with severe clinical depression with a few complicating factors. My upbringing was very poor and a little bit dysfunctional with a lot of alcohol in the house. Um, my brother moved over east to live with our biological father when I was 11. He was 15, and my mum had a nervous breakdown. My sister was just moved out of home and married. She married young as well. So I literally raised myself from the age of 11. So I only had me to rely on. But I've never ever discussed this with my mum because I don't blame her. She was unwell. She wasn't well. But I always wondered why I felt so different than the rest of my family because my brother and sister loved my mum. I love my mum, but I was never close to her until 2 years ago, or nearly 3 years ago, when my marriage ended for the second time because I told her some home truths that someone should have told her years ago, which I never wanted to do because I respect and love her so much. But everybody walked on paddle little on their tippy toes around my mum because she'd been spoiled her whole life in England, married very young. My biological dad spoiled her. We emigrated out to Australia. 2 years later, they separated, and mum met a new man. They're still together now, my stepfather. I'm about to change my surname by default to his surname because my biological father passed away 21 years ago, actually, this year. Um, and my stepfather, I consider my dad. He's the most important man I've had in my life. He accepted myself and my brother and sister unconditionally, even though there were lots of money, lack of money challenges. We didn't know that as kids. It was only as I got older that I noticed they drank a lot. And then when David left, my brother, I've never seen. My mum never used to drink, and she started to drink when she had a nervous breakdown. And my whole life changed, not in a positive way, unfortunately. But I just kept on going because that's what we do. We can't let our challenges defeat us. We have to arise above it and keep going. And that's how I've got through everything. And I've had a lot more happen over the years. But I've always
Yeah.
took the positive road, and
Yeah.
I don't hold grudges. I forgive for me, not for the people who do bad against me. I don't have to ever speak to them
Right.
again if I don't want to, but I forgive for
That's
me
true.
so they don't have any power over me anymore. But it took me a long
So
time
you're
to get
very,
there.
you know what, Penny? That's something that I need to learn how to do that in my own life. You're already helping me. That's something that
For,
I need to use that skill in my own life. But when you're 30 years old like me,
well,
that's a
see, I'm
lot harder to
51. That's
understand.
right. Yeah. I was a young mum at your age. Um, and getting to realise that my marriage wasn't quite how I expected it would be. Um, Marrying a country man from he grew up on a wheat and sheep farm, went to boarding school, all of the best, went back and worked on the farm. I've known his family since I was 12, but he was nearly 10 years older. I had a crush on him when I was in my teens, but, he showed a lot of respect and, no, 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 you're too young. But when I broke up from a 4-year relationship at 20 from a man that I've been with since I was 16, um, my late father-in-law invited me up the farm. And I never got to the farm, but then he said, well, come up to Moore River, which is a little coastal holiday town. Come and have a break, because he knew I worked hard. And I went up there, thankfully, because I got on well with his dad. He's like a grandfather, because I never had a grandfather figure in my life. They were in England, of course. I hadn't seen them since I was 4. God. Anyway, Eddie turned up, my ex-husband, the second night I was there. And I invited him for dinner, and we were together ever since. But we didn't live together for 5 years. He was on the family farm, nearly 2 hours drive away. I was running the law firm office in workers' comp. I liked being alone. I liked living alone. I'd moved out at 17 and lived independently on my own financially and everything from the age of 17. Because things I'm not really comfortable talking about were happening at home, which to this day no one else knows. I had actually blacked it out, and it only came out 4 years ago in therapy. I had flashbacks about some horrible, horrible things that were going on. Again, protecting my family. I've never told any of them. I've just dealt with it. I realised that my marriage couldn't continue when I went home that day from day therapy and asked him for some comfort because I'd had some horrible flashbacks. And he turned around and he said, don't you drag us down with you. And I said, I beg your pardon. I'm just asking you for your support, you know. I accepted him with all his differences and quirks and understood that he didn't express his love for me because he wasn't taught how to. And being Asperger, they struggle that way. I covered for him with his social inabilities and so forth. And I remember our youngest daughter at 16 come home from school and sit on the couch. And so I'm going to get emotional. And she said, Mum, I don't know if Dad even likes me, let alone loves me. And I said, oh, sweetheart, of course he does. You know, he's your dad. I said, he wasn't taught how to show that he loves you, but he works away because he worked in the mines, 2 weeks on, 1 week off, and then 1 week on, 1 week off. I said, he shows how much he loves us by providing so well for us because that's how he was taught to show. I said, don't ever doubt that he loves you. But he was so cruel to her because she challenged him and she made him have to accept that he was different and he had Asperger's because he would never ever go and get diagnosed. I never forced my daughter to either because she didn't want a label. We did go to a psychiatrist when she was about 7. He was an arrogant, rude gentleman who got disbarred the next year for his treatment of female patients because he wouldn't accept that female Asperger children showed very different symptoms than male Asperger children. And he told her that she was just a naughty girl and needed to do as she was told. We walked out of there and she said, well, Mum, I told you that would be a waste of time. He doesn't know me at all, does he? You know, because she was just so blunt, you know. I loved that side of it because I thought it was quite cheeky, you know. With very hard work and persistence, we taught her that people didn't understand her bluntness and straightforward speaking. It's just to tone her back a wee bit, you know. She had 2 very good friends her whole school life. Isaac, a boy, he's 6 months younger than her, but they were in kindy together. They're still best friends, best of friends. They're both quirky, intelligent nerds, as they call themselves, who love to play Dungeons and Dragons still. There's a group of them that play the board game Dungeons and Dragons. They always followed the rules and things that we as parents put in place. Just good kids, you know. But he's turned her against me, and I don't know what to do. I've asked for advice from all the specialists in the area I know because she's so intelligent that she was off the charts in year 3 in primary school. The reason she wasn't finishing tests is because she couldn't not put everything down. So and therefore things weren't finished. her teacher got permission to test her verbally, and she was off the charts. So from then on in, she felt accepted by the staff and just excelled. She was in PAC, which is a primary school extension program, as was my other daughter, and they were both in the academic extension programs in high school. So Emily is in her final year of her mechatronic and mechanical engineering degree, and my eldest daughter Danielle has her master's and her bachelor's in biomedical science and molecular biology. She took a year off. She lectures one day a week at Murdoch Uni, where she went, and she's gone back this year to further her master's and it's to do with speech pathology, but more of the research side of it. She's passionate about research because they unfortunately grew up seeing their mum not very well at times. Always tried to protect them from my problems, because you don't involve kids in that sort of thing. But she knew more than I realised, and she's passionate about finding cures and relief for people that are suffering. So, yeah. Where do you want me to go from here?
Well, I want to ask you some. So I have some questions.
Yeah,
okay.
If you don't mind if I drink my coffee.
No, go for it.
Thank
I'm
you.
not stopping you.
Just got to take my tablet.
Go for it. Of course. Everything you've said has, as I've said, you've been so relatable to me, as professionally speaking, as a talk show host, but then just on a one-to-one level. I also have Asperger's. I'm so comfortable.
I knew that. You didn't have to tell me that. Sorry.
Well, you're right. I didn't. No, you're right. I didn't know. You could probably tell. And you're you know what? You're absolutely right. In the States too, there's a huge stigma.
People don't understand.
I remember that I had a teacher. I had a teacher growing up. We'll call this teacher. Let's imagine that it was a woman, and let's call her Miss Smith. And Miss Smith is not her real name. We'll just say Miss Smith. Yeah. And Miss Smith was someone who also had Asperger's, and she refused to teach. And she refused, actually. She refused to teach me in her course. Why? For many reasons.
Why?
Because the reason that Miss Smith gave is that she got divorced, and she had Asperger's. So that means, apparently, in Miss Smith's mind, that meant that she couldn't teach blind people. So that's just what that kind of reminded me of. And
then you funny. Sorry.
No problem. So, it's just you bring up these great things, and then it conjures up other things in my mind that, made me think of that person. But I will tell you that, so for us people who have Asperger's, it is, for the record, it's tough because we do struggle with, the relationships and really understanding emotion and
your brain and by the works way, the way it does.
Right. And I think that it's very important to remember that there is still not an excuse, even if you have Asperger's.
My daughter had boundaries. She had rules, and she had consequences. She struggled accepting.
Absolutely, that's very, very important. And in my case, along with my blindness, glaucoma, congenital heart defect that I have, I noticed that I was a little bit Asperger around high school. I just wasn't maturing at the same rate.
And you struggled socially?
Right. And something was just sort of sneaking around. And then eventually I started to figure it out. And then my mother started reading books about it.
My daughter didn't understand why people wouldn't play with her. She didn't understand because she wasn't rough or violent. She just told them as it was. And I must say, I'm a little bit, I say to people, I'm not everybody is on the spectrum. Everybody alive. But you've got to get past those points before you're diagnosed, as you would know.
Right.
I've been trained in the area, so I'm fully aware of that. But I'm very honest. I'm very upfront and straightforward. And I say to someone, if they ask me my opinion, I say, do you want to know my answer? Because you may not like it. Because I will say what I think and tell you the truth of what I have seen and experienced with the problem you're having. I said, no, I won't hold back. So unless you really want to hear the truth, not sugarcoat it, please don't ask me.
Yeah, same way. Same way.
Yeah.
Same way, baby.
It
Yeah.
held me in good stead when I worked for lawyers.
Yeah.
Because I stood up to my bosses and I stood up to the
Yeah.
insurance company.
Yeah.
But in other parts of my life, it's got me in a little bit of trouble, as in
Well,
people thinking I'm being nasty, but I'm
mm-hmm.
not. I just am
No.
upfront. I don't hold back.
But right, and I've had to learn how to get a grip on it. I've had to learn to remind myself,
Just
hey,
remember
in the
that not
back of my mind,
everybody,
hey, like I have Asperger's. I always have to think, is this something
before
I
you
really want
answer,
to say? Because American people are
do
really
you know what I
sensitive,
taught?
so you have to be really careful in the States about what you say to people.
I taught
Um,
my daughter
mm-hmm.
mindfulness. If you are
Right,
mindful and practice living your life in mindfulness, you will cope really well with Asperger's because you do stop and think before it comes out your mouth.
right. That's
Think,
you know what. I just love your advice. Are you a podcaster? You need to be
no,
because you're giving really, really good advice.
I've always been the type of person that wants to stand up for the underdog. Um, but being in the situation I was in for my childhood and then my marriage, I felt
Right.
very, I felt worthless and I didn't believe in
Mm-hmm.
myself and I didn't believe that I was good for anything because one, I had severe depression. So you're stuck in that black hole. I wasn't allowed to go to a psychiatrist because my husband wouldn't let me. I went to my GP who counselled me wonderfully, but didn't give me the skills to get through it quicker. I ended up in Perth Clinic, which is a private mental health facility, for a week when I got to step back. I broke up with my husband the first time nearly 8 years ago. It was really hard to do and I was really scared because I know he's vindictive and I know his father had died 2 years before and he'd inherited a lot of land and a lot of money, which I was not interested in because I'm not money driven. As long as you've got a roof over your head, you're happy, you're clean, your tummy's full, and you can give a bit to charities and live happily, that's enough for me. He tried to get me committed secretly by going to our daughters who were over 18 and telling them things about me that weren't true. But oh, I'm a sleepwalker, okay? You can talk to me in my sleep and I will answer you. But the next day, I won't remember the conversation. So they were telling me things, thinking I was awake when I was asleep. So I didn't physically awake know we'd had the conversations. He convinced them that I was awake and I just didn't care. I'd lost interest. They'd moved out of home together because we were a long way from their university, so they moved out into an apartment together. They were very blessed to get a very generous trust fund from their late grandfather, which they're very thankful for. Um, but when I separated from him the first time, I approached the trust lawyer to get my daughters an allowance while they studied because that's what their grandfather wanted. He didn't want them stressed. He wanted them to be able to concentrate on their studies. I got them $500 a week, which they've received since they started university, and so that's $2,000 a month, which is a lot of money for young people. Um, and as I said, my eldest, had three jobs at one time because she was so determined to be independent. Because I taught them to be everything I wasn't taught. That is strong, independent, financially independent, and take no shit from no one, especially a man. But it must have been very confusing to them because they were witnessing their father be disrespectful to me. I explained to them that I accepted a lot more than most women would because I knew he had Asperger's. So I set that boundary a little bit wider. But when he started becoming emotionally, monetarily, and physically and sexually abusive, I drew the line. But it took me a long time to get out safely. In the last stages, he used to lock me in the house, take my keys, break my phone. My phone and my tablet and everything is how how I communicate because of my blindness. Tried to make me keep driving after it was safe because it was beneficial to him. When I look back at it, I think he was probably trying to kill me off type thing. I walked out of that marriage with the house I'm in, which was our first marital home with our children. It's a little 3x1, which I'm happy with, 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom. I don't need a big house. It's too hard to keep clean when you can't see. And I can't find any cleaners that do it any good because I'm a bit fussy, mainly for health reasons. I've got allergies to dust and dust mites, I get anaphylaxis from it. So the house has to be clean. I walked away from my claim on his land to try to convince my children that what he said to them wasn't true. And I didn't want the money. I walked away from 750,000 Australian dollars because I just want my kids back in my life and a roof over my head. He has the farm, the land, all the invested trust, and the other big house that we were in as a family. I don't care. I just wanted to be free from being... I had a bit of a clarity moment when my depression really came under control with medication and psychiatry help because I'd never looked into myself. And I did cognitive behavioural therapy. Most people do it over 10 weeks. I did it in 10 days because I'm a bit impatient at learning things when I want to learn. It's the best thing I ever did. It changed my life. I realised that I'd been taught by him to think negatively about every thought that went in my head instead of turning it around to positive before it actually formed. And CBT teaches you to change your neural pathways of thinking. And it bloody works. It was amazing, the change I felt within myself. But I didn't tell you, after 10 months of being separated and close to a $1.5 million settlement, I took him back because I felt sorry for him. Forgot that, didn't I? I struggle with not helping people too. So being caring and thoughtful and wanting to help has its downfalls because people take advantage of you. They take advantage of your niceness and your generosity. And I'm an empath. I have empathic abilities. I just know things sometimes. I know things about people. I can calm animals with my touch. I can see people's auras. This sounds weird. I have loved ones who die talk to me. Growing up, I always felt different than my family and thought I was actually schizophrenic because I'd hear voices and I put them as different people in my head. And I now realise that it was the spiritual side. I've never trained in it and I don't want to. What comes to me comes to me. I've got enough challenges in life without dealing with people who've died.
That's true.
You have to deal with them
you
when they're
have enough.
alive.
You have
you
enough.
know?
You have enough
Yeah,
challenges with the living. You don't need.
I
You don't
do.
need to further it
So
with the dead. Yeah.
I got in contact with the person who taught me to block it because you have to learn how to block it out. And that's what I do. I get up every morning and I put on what I call my Technicolor dream coat, which protects me from spirits who really just want to give people messages.
Right.
Just leave me alone. If I want to let you in, I will. But I can't live with you coming to me all the time. I've got enough things to deal with in life. But you also have bad spirits try to come through. I'm not going to go into that now because you'll try to get me put in a mental hospital and think I'm insane about what happened.
That's all right. No, you're not insane.
It was very,
no, you're
yeah,
quite.
no, but it made me question myself
Sure.
because
Sure.
I had malevolent spirits in my other home and they were affecting me badly. They were making my health issues worse. It's probably why I got as sick as I did. I do have illnesses. Do you know what Barrett's esophageal disease is?
I do not know.
Do you know what GORD is? Gastroesophageal reflux disease. I can't eat anything. I can't eat anything
Okay.
acidy because the gastric acids in my stomach come back up.
Indeed.
When you have that, I also have a bit of a complication that I have a 6 centimetre hiatal hernia, which allows the acids to come up anyway. which can't be repaired where it's located. When you constantly have that for years and no medications helped me, I tried, they just didn't help, or I was allergic to them. You end up with ulcers in your throat, like in your esophagus, and tumours in your stomach, and they have to watch that they don't turn cancerous. For a few years, I was going every 3 months for gastroscopies because the doctor was so worried. My ex-husband chose to take me off the private health insurance, so I'm going to have to wait about a year now to go and have one. And I'm terrified that because I've been left with lesions in my throat, sometimes I can't swallow properly because they get inflamed. I'm going to lose all my teeth because the acid has destroyed my teeth
Ooh,
below the gums. Below the
ooh
gums,
la la.
they're all
Ooh
loose.
la la.
They're loose. They're all loose. So not a very pleasant thing to have to look forward to. But I'll face it. I've said to my friends, just don't make fun of me for having no teeth while I save up to get one at a time put in with those metal post things because I don't have the money to do it. But I'll deal with it.
Well,
While I
good,
can still
good.
get out and
You know,
about, you just get on.
I have beautiful, absolutely. You're doing a
Mm,
beautiful job.
thank
I
you.
have a really direct question. I've never,
Yeah, sure.
as a podcaster, I've never felt the need to ask it because it's never come up so beautifully.
What's that?
I might be, in some sort of a. I'm really. This is going to get good.
No, just,
I'm in
just,
some
just
sort
say
of a
it.
group I'm in some sort of a group on Facebook
Mm-hmm.
where the people in the group are
Yep.
single like me, men and
Yep. As
women, and
I
they're
am
looking to find a
at the moment.
partner or something like that.
Mm.
What is some really good advice that you have from a
And
blindness
these,
perspective, Asperger perspective
okay.
about navigating that world?
On your first meeting with a future date or partner, tell them of your
Right.
disability.
I've never
Do
even met
not,
anyone in real
do
life, by
not
the way,
be
but just in
ashamed.
general.
Do not be ashamed of your disability because it makes us stronger people. It makes us more tolerant people. And it makes us more loving and understanding people because we've faced challenges our whole lives. So we have empathy. Even if you're not empathic, you have empathy because you understand the challenges that other people face. Um, Go on dating sites. There's nothing wrong with them as long as you vet the people before you meet them in a public environment so that you're safe. Do police checks on them. Make sure you're safe. You're gonna
Great.
stalk their Facebook page and
Yeah.
find out what they do and what they like to do and their history and background because that's your right to feel safe. And just take it slow.
Beautiful.
Um,
Beautiful.
I've never had a lot of partners. I've only had 2 serious relationships from 16 to 20 and then 20 to 48. So,
Hmm.
and neither of them were very thoughtful men. I now look back and realise, but I tolerated a lot more than most women would because I've always just wanted to be loved and accepted and not have to worry where the next meal's coming from. And my husband provided that for me and my children. He gave them experiences that I never had growing up. They both went on scout jamborees to different states at particular ages. As a family, we went on an international jamboree with scouting to Sri Lanka. Um, you know, we've taken them over to see my brother over east when they have snow because we don't have snow in WA except for a long way away in the ranges and it's not skiing snow. Um, you know, I love Indonesia. I would live there if I could in Bali. They are the kindest, most accepting, caring, and compassionate people I've ever met. And I'm treated with respect over there. I had a woman cut me off about 2 months ago with my white cane. She kicked it that hard that it bent at a 90-degree angle at the bottom joint, second joint actually. It bent the steel. She just kept walking. I had another woman cut me off and she tripped over my cane and fell flat on her face. I felt terrible, but it wasn't my fault. She wasn't watching where she
No.
was going. A security guard at the shopping centre saw her get up and start abusing me. She had a blood nose. He come over and he says, "How dare you? yell at this poor
Wow.
woman, "You cut her
That's
off."
okay. That's cool.
You know, that was
That's cool
cool.
that a security guard defended you. That's cool.
It's the only time I've ever had it in Australia, ever, anywhere in Australia. But in Bali, I can walk past 2 shops and they'll very politely ask what my cane is because they don't have them over there. Retinitis pigmentosa is very prevalent in Indonesia, but they call it chicken eyes
It's
because chicken eyes,
yeah.
chickens can't see in the dark, and RP sufferers don't have purple vision. So, oh, you have chicken eyes. 2 men, grown men, broke down in tears when I explained to them that I don't see very well. It's just compassion and caring and genuine. It's a beautiful country. I'd love to live there, but my life's gone a different way. So I'll holiday there when all these diseases are under control again. I go to the same place every time I go so that I'm safe and familiar with the surroundings. And they all remember me because I'm the only person they've ever seen with a white cane before. And I talk to them politely. So I don't understand people who are rude in other countries. Just be polite.
Yeah.
So that's all we need to do
Yeah.
is be polite and respect one another, be a much nicer, kinder world.
It
So,
would be a
hmm,
much nicer and kinder world.
hmm,
I salute you for saying that. I
hmm.
completely agree.
And I believe
Absolutely.
people with disabilities give so much more in ways that people who aren't challenged can't do because we've faced so much adversary all our lives. So if we can overcome that, we've got that base and grounding to offer and share with people who aren't challenged with a disability and are still not very nice people.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I just think you should
Definitely.
rise
Hmm.
above negativity, be positive. I believe in healing crystals. They help me tremendously. Um, Again, it's only self-knowledge that I've learned about healing crystals. They've helped me with my pain because I can't take painkillers other than all I can take is Panadol. And Panadol doesn't help when you've got osteoarthritis and reactive arthritis on top of inflammatory arthritis, so from your neck down to your feet. I can't take painkillers because it'll make my stomach problems worse and I'll lose half my esophagus if it gets any worse. So I turn to healing crystals. I don't know if you can see. Oh, excuse,
I can.
this is my craft room. I'm gonna just go.
Lovely.
Hang on, I've got to turn it around because I'm showing you me. I've got. Oh, where are they? What have I done? Oh, there they are. I'm having trouble getting the camera in the right position. Sorry. I've got
No
hundreds and
worries.
hundreds of
Yeah.
them. There's lots and lots of them, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
educating myself what ones will help me. And I've discovered that when I buy the stones, I don't know who they're for. I know if they're for me, but I don't know why I'm pulled to other ones. But if I'm going to visit someone or someone calls me and we're talking, I will just know that this particular stone I have is for them. So I gift it to them with the details by looking it all up and researching it of what that stone is, its healing properties, if you believe in it, because everybody has choice. But I think it will help you with what you're being faced with. And it's a gift. And everybody that I've done that with
Yeah.
since I came across healing crystals have said they've helped them. So use them with positive affirmations, and what you put out into the world comes back. So,
Yeah. Someone who's been on the podcast before. She makes. I know someone who makes the different precious gem necklaces too.
mhm,
Are you into those? Do you do gem necklaces?
I've got my,
You get different stones and
this
then
is
you
my
make a
one.
necklace?
This one protects me from evil
Oh,
and gives me strength. It's black tourmaline and
right.
clouded quartz crystal. So, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I've got
Sure.
a lovely two ladies that I've met through a group on Facebook that I buy my crystals from, and one of them has been working in this field. She's a real estate agent, but she's had a passion for crystals for 40 years. And she'd never met me before, this woman. I sent her a message, and you'll see on my Facebook page, I don't give a lot of personal details, sharing comment on my health, and because I've got another group, healing, holistic health and healing. and I just put things up that I think people will
Yes.
get benefits
That's
from.
where I must have. I think I
Yeah,
came across you on that page. Yeah.
because just because we're different and we might have empathic abilities or know things or have disabilities or challenges, why should we not be supported and taught any skill that will make our life better? And too many people allow others in their education and so forth and work environments to treat them as a lower being. And it's just not right. They shouldn't get away with it. Sounds so hypocritical because I lived in an abusive marriage for all those years. But it was during that time that I realised why I stayed. It was my own hang-ups with my upbringing. I was from a divorced family. I didn't want that for my children. I wasn't being hit. We were provided for very well. I just felt really down because I was depressed, is what I felt. But when some serious things started happening, I realised that he had his own mental health issues that cannot be helped because he won't ever accept he needs help. And I couldn't live that way anymore because I'm not ashamed, but I'm open to admitting that I've tried to commit suicide. I got that low from his mistreatment. I firmly believe with all my heart that my girls would be better off without me in the world because he convinced me that I had no purpose, I had no goals, I was a pathetic mother because I was sick all the time. And at that point of my mental health challenge and struggle, he was able to convince me that he was right. I wouldn't be here now if he hadn't come home an hour early because I was on 5 different medications at that time. I'm now only on one, not realising that the doctors weren't communicating and they were making bad side effects happen because they didn't work together. You trust your doctors and your specialists, but since this happened to me, I've learned to research everything I'm asked or told would make my health better before I'll touch it. And I'll challenge them. So I've found this out. I've found this out. It's going to do this. Half the time they never knew because they get given these drugs and medications by labs, salesmen, and pawn them off to us. And I won't,
Right.
I won't accept that anymore. I question and I research and I
Sure.
look
Sure.
into
Sure.
things because we are a
That's
little
really
bit
good.
naive
Yeah.
like that, I think, as human beings, in that we trust the doctors too much. We've got to be responsible for ourselves at the end of the day, for our happiness. And remember that happiness is not a state, it's the journey you travel to get there. Best thing I was ever taught. I used to think happiness was a state of
Mm.
mind, and it's not. It's the journey you take to find it and get there is the happiness.
Hold on. Hold on a second. Hold on a
There you
second.
go.
Just hold on a second.
Why is that? What
Hold
have I
on just
done?
a second.
What are you doing?
Can, yeah. Can you? So we have a very special here, a very special feature. One of the
Mm,
features of podcasting right here on Riverside is when a guest says something really good, I can make
mm,
sure to highlight it so I can go back to it later when I want to.
mm.
So, what do you think? I just want you to repeat what you said. Go ahead and repeat what you said about,
Happy, yeah,
the
the
happiness
happiness.
and that journey thing. That's worth it. Go back and say that sentence again. That really is worth
Yep.
it. Go for it.
Happiness is not a state of mind. It is the journey you take to get there, where you will find your happiness.
Mm, I
So
think I
many
got it.
people think
I think I
it's
got it for you.
it's it's a feeling, and it's not. It's the experience or your journey, your personal journey to find it. And when you find it, you
Right.
know. But don't look for it. It'll just come. Does that make sense?
It
Experience your
does.
life. Experience your life to the fullest that you can with your means and challenges that you may face. Don't accept crap from people. Don't expect abuse from people. Stand up for yourself, no matter who they are. I don't care if it's the head of police or the president of your country. Stand up for yourself because we're all humans. We're all people.
God knows. God knows we should stand up to the presidents of our countries and our leaders just once a year, not every day, once a
Yeah, with
year.
no repercussions. Be able to say what we like. I think I could teach them a lot because
Right.
honestly, through my own life experiences, although they're not widespread, they're involved with what I've had to face and the people that have come in and out of my life. And to too many people
Sure.
that have challenges or who are what I consider what you would call the underdog. Doesn't have anyone to talk for them and speak up for them. I'll speak up for anybody and stand up for them if they want me to. And I'll educate myself with the knowledge I need to be able to do it effectively. Because I love learning. The hardest thing about losing my sight is reading. Reading is my passion. I used to read at least 5 novels a week. That's how much I love it. I do not like audiology books because I put my own voices, characters, backgrounds, feelings into the character when I read a book. For someone else to read it,
Good.
it does my head in. And if a movie comes out on a book that I want to read, I have to watch the movie first because otherwise I won't like it because the book gives you so much more detail that I pick the movie to pieces.
Yeah.
The best thing I
Sure.
got,
You're right.
I got national. It's called NDIS, which is National Disability Insurance Scheme. It was rolled out in Western Australia 2 years ago. I only applied for it. I applied for it initially, but then had to put it on hold because of my divorce settlement. It would have affected my settlement. I've just been allocated funds for help and assistance in different areas of my life so that I can, because I own my home outright, which was always a dream of mine. I didn't want to do it by my marriage ending, but so be it. We follow the course. But I love craft. I love doing scrapbooking, cross-stitching. I taught myself to draw about 5 years ago because I couldn't draw and I wanted to draw. So I watched YouTube videos and learnt to draw. And I'll show you some photos, pictures and things that I've drawn. I'm not very good at bringing it out of the imagination, but I can look at something and draw it and then perfect it if I keep doing it. I've always been good with words, like my vocab's always been extensive. Being in a legal background, you have to have that. So I started writing poetry, and I'm bloody good at it. I'll share with some of those. I think you might have read one of them, and that's what you've initially commented on, was a poem that I'd written about RP and how it affected my life and made me feel. I remember you contacted me after
It's
I
possible.
posted one of
It's
them.
possible. Again, I don't specifically.
But I don't just write poems
specifically
about
remember, exactly where and how.
me. It was on one of a group. It was on a
The
group. I
what?
know that.
Sorry, I
You
didn't catch
comment.
that. What?
It was on a group on Facebook.
It was a
But
very
I don't
long. You see,
remember
Penny,
which
it was a
one.
very long time ago,
I was going through a lot
and
then.
I do not recall exactly at
Mm,
what moment I.
yeah. Well,
Well, that's possible.
I left my
Yeah.
husband for the last
No,
time
that's true. I mean,
3
that's
years
true.
ago.
But yes, I don't specific.
So
Right.
I left my husband for the last time 3 years ago, and we met about 2 months before that through a group. So I was going through a lot. I had to get my strength mentally and physically back to
Right. That's
fight
possible.
him
Yeah.
really for my rights.
Sure.
So, but in finding my drawing,
So,
my
Penny, I'm curious.
crafting, it gave me
Mm-hmm.
belief in
Right.
myself again.
Well, so good.
Mm.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
I can go days
Absolutely.
without talking.
Penny,
Unless
I'm
you
just
can
kind of
relate.
curious. So you said
I'm being cheeky. Sorry.
the Penny,
Mm.
but well, Penny, I just
Singing
have to
too.
tell you something.
What's
that? We only
Hmm?
have about on this recording. I only have about another minute.
I told you it
have
wouldn't take
done
long
a
for an hour to
absolutely
go.
magnificent job today.
I'd love to talk to you again.
Yeah.
It's helping me as well.
Well, you are forever welcome. You're forever welcome here.
Thank you.
I just want to close by saying, do you have any?
I admire you greatly. I must say.
If you can ask me only one question, only one more question, to really make me sweat, to see if I'm really worth my salt as a podcaster, what do you want to know?
Where do you want to be when you're my age? What do you want to have achieved?
I want to have achieved that. I want to achieve a podcast that truly helps other people.
Not just for other people.
Other people around the blindness community.
I mean for you. For you, what do you want? in your personal life? Do you have goals in that area as well as your professional?
Well,
That's very important.
I might have. It
I
is.
didn't
I
mean to
might
embarrass
have
you. You
goals.
are
I might have
blushing.
goals. Some of
Sorry.
them are, as we say.
I didn't mean to make you blush. I'm sorry.
The what?
You're blushing. I've embarrassed you. I didn't
No
mean to.
problem.
Wasn't my intention.
No, that's fine. No, that's fine. I might have goals.
Good.
But we say in the States, that we keep a lot of our goals in the States secret.
Why?
Because we don't want people in the future to tell us that we can't
steal
do that.
them from you or to take them from you.
But probably I see myself living with some animals. And,
do you want children?
And things like that. So that's a really interesting question. So Penny, if someone wants to get in touch with you in the future, how would they be able to do that? If someone wants to contact you personally?
Probably by my email address, which I don't mind you sharing if you feel that they can gain from that, or by asking to join my Facebook page that I've got, which I've just gone blank at the total full name because it's long. Holistic and Inner Peace and Healing.
Okay. All right. Well, guys, I think
happy to share advice.
You can click the link in the description.
As long as people understand, I'm not professionally trained in these areas. It's all from my gut instincts. But I'm usually right. Yeah, I've been taken advantage of because the caring side of me takes over, but I work through that.
Sure,
so happy to offer my opinion or advice in any area.
Well, very good. All right, everybody. Well, listen. Well, Penny, it was a tremendous honor to have you on the podcast today. You did a great job. And if you guys have any questions, you can click the link in the description. I wish you all Penny. I wish you the very best of health and luck in your life, and along with all the listeners around the world, very best of health and luck to you. And as we say here, I usually say it in the outro, but I'll say it right here. Thanks so much, everybody. Stay safe out there and help one person today. Help 1 million people tomorrow.
Watch out for the drop bears if you come to Australia.
Got it.
See ya.
Awesome.